I grew up in Elkhart, and growing up in South Central Elkhart, in a fairly inner city sort of neighborhood, one of the things that were present in that neighborhood were trees, and a mulberry tree in particular is one of those trees that has stayed with me through my life. This was a large, breaking down mulberry that was halfway down the alley in Mr. Applewhite's backyard, and it had one large limb in particular that broke down all the way to the ground and could just kind of climb up it into the tree and harvest the mulberries. And I remember playing in that tree with friends, by myself sometimes, I think. It's a little hard to remember. Walking our dog up and down that alley. That tree was has continued to be, the memory of that tree has continued to be an important reference point for me throughout my life. So one of the things that has continued to be also very important to me is writing and storytelling. And that's part of what we want to touch on here this evening. I don't think of myself as a writer, but I have always wanted to be a writer, and I've always wanted to be a storyteller. I've always been very interested in writing and storytelling. And I've spent a lot of time working on writing and storytelling through my life. I don't know, there isn't much to show for it, much success to show for it, but it's something that I continue to work at and craft. Anyways, when I was a senior in high school, I began to write a story about a girl who climbed up into a tree, a mulberry tree, and never came down again. It's a story that was never finished. It was going to be the great American novel. Maybe it still will. I don't know. And it was that mulberry tree that I had in mind, the mulberry tree that I was referencing earlier. And it wasn't until much later, even 4 or 5 years ago, that much later, I'm 44, so it's been more than 20 years since I started that story. It wasn't until much later that I realized that story I was writing about myself. I should have known at the age when I began, but of course when you're 18 you don't have that kind of perspective. But it was a story that I was writing about not wanting to grow up, not wanting to leave home, not wanting to leave my neighborhood, my friends. I wanted to climb up into that tree and stay there. I tell that story because the years between beginning to write that story and realizing who it was about were the years in which I stumbled into forestry, into urban forestry, and into the vocation that has become so important to me, with the storytelling and the writing on the side.